Hello everybody. We have another game with the black pieces and our new speed run against Shem Walsall, rated 662. White opens up with e4. Very good move, controlling, seizing the center. We're going to play d6, controlling a square in the center and helping our development. White goes bishop c4. This develops a piece, hits the center, and prepares castling, so king safety. We are going to go knight f6. This develops a piece, attacks the center, and prepares castling, which is king safety. Oh man. And this guy goes queen g4. We're just going to take the queen. Hopefully you realize there's no threat and there's a clear drawback. So this has nothing to do with the center, but we'll develop a piece and we'll take a queen. He might just resign. He does not. He goes bishop b5. This gives a check. He's moving, the drawback is he's moving the same piece twice, not developing, not center, not king safety. We play c6. This threatens the bishop, so it's a forcing move, and attacks the center for free. He goes bishop a4, moving the same piece with no threats. So now we get to go center, development, king safety. Now I know this pawn is hanging, but I'm not going to take it. I'm going to put my own pawn in the center, prepare my development and my castling. White goes f3. This threatens my bishop, supports the center, takes away the square from the knight, doesn't get closer to castling, but my bishop's attacked, so now I move it to the only square that has reasonable diagonals. The others are covered by pawns. And my position's wonderful, and I'm simply up a queen. But even if I wasn't up a queen, like let's say his queen was back home on d1, my position's just better than white's. Look at my control of the center. This square, oops, this square, this square, this square, this square, this square, this square. So many times these squares are being hit. And for him, it was just this and this. It doesn't even compare. So now he moves the same pawn again, wasting more time, threatening nothing because these moves don't actually win anything. So just a terrible move. Drawback, now both of these pawns are hanging. I guess I'll just take it. What are you going to do? He's forcing me to take his stuff. Okay, now he goes knight h3. This threatens to win his pawn back, which is good. It also prepares castling, which is good. Drawback, he refuses to defend this pawn in the center. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm still not going to take it. I'm going to develop center, king safety. So this right here, bishop e7, it's development, and it's preparing castling for king safety. So as long as in the opening you follow center, development, king safety, you can't go wrong. So he takes his pawn back, but that wastes another turn. Just so many tempi he's wasting. It threatens a trade of minor pieces, but I don't really care, right? I'm up a queen. I want to continue with my principles. King safety. So now my king is perfectly safe, right? So now white castles. No threats. He does have an open F file, which is nice for him. Drawback is this diagonal's open for things like queen b6. But okay, he's working on his king safety, so that's a good thing. Now that I'm castled, really no reason not to take this. I'm just going to take the pawn. Now if I give a queen b6, notice that this knight hits this square, so it's a coordination square. So if he moves his king, I now have knight in check. If he doesn't sack his rook and he moves his king back, we have the double check with the knight and the queen. That means he has to move his king back. And then normally you would have the queen sack, rook takes, Knight f2, smother, checkmate. But his knight on e2 actually can take the queen instead of the rook, which is an interesting difference because normally the knight's not here, so you have smother, checkmate. But here you don't have smother, checkmate just because the knight covers that square, so that's important to notice the differences in variations, and that's one of them. Okay, so center development. We kind of don't even need so much center anymore because we kind of own it. He has nothing. We have a bunch of stuff touching the center. Um, so we could work more on development, and our king is safe. So let's try to focus on development. Our knight and our queen, let's try to do something with them, get them active. If I just give this check, he's just going to move or potentially block, and you're not actually threatening anything. I'm going to get it active in a different way, and that's by going queen a5. My opponent left the game. I can claim victory, call the game a draw, or wait. I'm going to claim victory because I'm up a queen, alright? So there's no point in waiting. It's a short video, so I guess we'll play another, but just to show you my moves. Center, development, free queen, free queen. Actually, development, alright? Center, 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 free pawn. And if you think about it, that pawn was attacking the center, so now it's not, so in a way, center. Development, king safety, center, because that pawn was seizing the center, but also free stuff. Free stuff is its own principle. I should probably put that, but I don't need to because you guys love free stuff. No one needs to tell you to take free stuff. Development, and he resigns, he leaves. So everything I did, center, development, king safety, free stuff, right? And so you're seeing a pattern here, and it's working. At least at these very low levels where it's super simplistic, where they just hang queens and move forward. But let's see. Maybe the next guy won't hang his queen on move 4. So now we're white. We're going to seize the center, e4. Best by test. It's the opening move of a real chess player. Cowards tend not to like e4. So anyway, black goes e5. Center, great move, awesome response to e4. We're going to develop and hit the center with our piece. This also prepares castling for king safety to 3-1. Black goes knight f6. This threatens our pawn. He develops a piece, hits the center, and prepares his own castling. Good move. Our turn. We go knight c3, developing a piece, attacking and defending the center. Now, some of you might think there's knight takes pawn, knight takes knight, d5 center fork trick. And that does exist if I take the knight. But if he takes here, I think there's another variation you can go down, and that's I think queen h5 is the move in that line. But anyway, he didn't play that, so he plays d5, seizing the center, preparing development. It would be a good move, and we've seen this in so many of our games. Black just launches the d pawn, but it's hanging all the time. I always have 3 attackers, they always have 2 defenders, and they still do it. And every single time I take the pawn. Okay, so if we take with the knight, we hang the central pawn. So if we take with the pawn, we kind of block our bishop. So let's take with the bishop. Simple reasoning, right? Knight hang. If you take with the knight, it hangs stuff. You take with the pawn, you block your own stuff and double your pawns. So you take with the bishop. Simple. Keeps the diagonal open, keeps the pressure. If he trades, no biggie. Then you throw your knight in the center. And you're up a central pawn. Now I have 2 pawns in these central files. He only has 1. White's better. And you can see I'm clearly have a strong focus on the center. Black goes bishop c5. This puts a little pressure on the diagonal. Doesn't actually threaten anything. Maybe he wants to coordinate in the future. It's a developing move that attacks the center and prepares king safety. Can't be bad, right? Has to be pretty strong. So we're going to go center, d3, defend our pawn, opens up our bishop for development. So beautiful 2-in-1 move that accomplishes our goals, checks the check boxes of center and development, which is what we want in the opening. So black castles, this takes care of his king safety. Makes a lot of sense. This 600 is playing amazing. The last 600 just hung his queen right away. You see the variety? It's crazy. So anyway, it's our turn. You could do something normal, attack the center and develop with the knight. You can develop your bishop with a pin. That looks kind of cool. It all looks kind of cool, to be honest. But if you pin the bishop, they have those tactics, right? Like bishop takes f2, king takes, knight jumps in, and then queen takes the bishop. You can only pin the knight if your knight's already developed, protecting that square. So that's an important tactic. Usually it's white doing it to black, but so it's interesting not to fall into that. Okie dokie. I'm just saying something. If I go f4 and he jumps his knight into g4 and I go f5 and he jumps in, forking my pieces, and I go queen h5 and he takes my rook, and I go bishop g5 and he goes queen over, and then I go bishop f6. If the pawn takes, no, not bishop f6, I go f6, and if he pushes past, I go queen h6. And can he stop checkmate there? I'm gonna go for that. I'm gonna play f4. Now, this is not a developing move. This is not a king safety move. This is strictly a center move. I'm attacking the center with a pawn instead of a minor piece. And in the future, the goal is to get a rook on the f file. And when you do, that will increase your development. So you want to get rid of this f pawn to improve your development of the rook and to attack the center. Those are the ideas. So black goes, he doesn't jump the knight in there and try to coordinate like I was calculating. Instead he puts the bishop here, but this isn't, you know, nearly as much of a threat because I could just develop and block it naturally. But still, he's developing fine. That's one of the principles. Can't be too bad. Now we put our knight here. Development towards the center. And we can't castle because of this bishop, but we can castle the other way in the future. And now we have a nice position. His position's also solid because he did center, he did development, he did king safety. So that's why his position's fine. He's down a pawn, but other than that, it would be fine. He played very principled. What was I gonna say? Principally, very principled. Okay, so he takes the pawn, which affects the center because I was attacking it. Fine. I can recapture it. I don't see a reason not to. I'm going to take my pawn back with development and center, right? So all of my moves, I mean, it's still move 8, but you could see all 8 moves. Development, center, king, safety. Now go through your game. Go through your first 8 moves. Are they actually center, development, king, safety? And you'll find out they're not. You'll be like, oh, this was a pawn move, you know, with my A or H pawn. That maybe it kicked something, but it wasn't center, it wasn't development, it wasn't king safety. And you'll notice you're just not following the rules. So he takes the bishop. We have to take back because it's a piece. We don't take back with the pawn because that doubles our pawns and opens his rook to our king. So that would be really dumb. So instead, we take with the knight. No big deal. Now he might be inclined to kick it with c6. A lot of lower rated players would immediately do that because as soon as they can kick a piece, they do. But that takes away the square from the knight. Also, my knight doesn't mind moving. It has this beautiful square here. Even if you went back to its original square, it's a great square. But this one in particular, okay, so he goes f5. This strikes the center, helps open up some space for his rook, which x-rays my bishop, so it's center and development. Slightly weakens his king in regards to king safety, but I don't have a light square bishop. So, it's kind of principled, you know, even though it's a weird f-pawn move. Okay, not bad actually. Unbecoming of a 600, well, we'll say that, but either way. What do we want to do here? If we simply retreat our knight and he takes, our bishop hangs. So this bishop is the problem in all the lines because it's just a hanging piece and the rook's about to open up. So one of the threats that my move came with, my last move, was that it coordinates with the bishop on this square. So now that he did this, we could take with either piece. If you take with the knight, you're guaranteed the rook, but again, your bishop is still not in the right spot. So he can open up the center. Your king is still there. I don't like that. At least in this variation, we take with the bishop. It gets out of the way. He doesn't have time to take the pawn because his queen is hanging. Although you can sack a rook, you definitely can't sack a queen. So he has to move the queen. And maybe with that time, I can try to finagle my way out. Even something just dropping the bishop back. Or taking the knight because it's a tempo move, meaning I get the move back. So I get rid of the problem piece. Like, because the bishop and the knight construction, like the knight defends the bishop, this pawn defends the knight, and then he's attacking the pawn. So it's not the most solid construction. So what we really want to do is consolidate. What does that mean? It means develop our last piece and castle, right? Put it on the dark square and castle, and then, you know, our problems are over because if the center opens up, our king's not there. So he moves the queen over. This x-rays the king. It does walk into potential forks again, but for the time being, you know, you don't really want your king to get in trouble like that. The thing is, the queen is no longer hitting the knight where it was previously. That meant I could not push because the knight would have been hanging. In this scenario, we have the option of pushing, and he can't challenge it with another pawn, which means it's very solid and we can support it further. d4 looks like a nice center move, but then it hangs the central pawn. So in light of keeping his rook closed, our king closed, we're going to push past. He can't take, even though the knight's kind of pinned, because the bishop defends. And even if he attacks the bishop, we can always take the knight and then support it with a pawn. Now he never gets to trade, he never gets to open up the rook. And so by doing this, I'm controlling the center in a much more profound way than when it was on e4, right? This considerably controls the center, bypassing his pawn, because now he doesn't have pawns to challenge it, so it's going to be there forever. And in the context of development, I'm stifling it because I didn't let him open up the f file. Um, yeah. And and what happens when you play f4 like I do instead of knight f3, right? Is that it takes a little extra time. You're not developing a piece as fast. So your king can, like in this situation, get stuck in the center for a little longer, and so it's a little scarier. And also, even when you are free, you still can't castle through check. So that takes even more time to if you now have to either block the diagonal or go queenside. So it's a riskier approach, it's a more aggressive approach, but it still follows principles, right? F4 still attacks the center. It still has the idea of increasing rook scope for development. Um, so he develops a knight, sensible move, attacks and controls the center. And by the way, uh, there's no way this guy's actually 600, just so you know. Either someone's helping him or he's cheating or something, but this guy's playing way better than a 600. So, yes, he's still losing, but that's not the point. Okay, so what was it saying? Yeah, he moves his knight. He's controlling this square and so forth. I'm going to go c3. Why? It looks random, but it's not. It controls the center from both of his pieces. He would have loved to jump his knight in here and pressure this, right? But now he can't use this square. And guess what else? Boom. It's coming. Oh, yes, indeed. It's coming. But what did he do? He took a pawn. He's saying that, oh my god, there's an x-ray. And if I take with the knight, I hang my queen. But if I take with the bishop, I'm up a piece. He gets the piece back. I get the queen, he gets the queen. I'm up a piece. So aren't I just up a piece? So let's take his knight. And he could take this knight. And then I'll take it back. And when he takes this, even this, he has this knight. There's just everything hanging in all the lines. That's pretty funny. So if he takes this and he's hitting my queen, I don't see like an intermezzo that makes any sense. So I'll probably just take back. And when he does take back, okay, he does not do any of that. He moves his rook over. Development, center. This guy's playing more principled than I am. Impressive. Very impressive. So he's also threatening this guy. So I'm going to defend it while creating this crazy x-ray that I'm going to try to take advantage of one way or another. Now my knight's not pinned. If he takes my bishop, he just loses the queen outright. If he takes my knight, I have knight c7 check. But then he actually has bishop d5, which I'm sure a lot of people would miss. Huh. You get a bishop, he gets a queen, you get a... Yeah, that's not good for me. So, if he takes this, and you take back, and he gives you this check, I don't like that. So if he takes this, what was I saying? I have this check as well. Oh, this is a double check. Yeah, I was looking at knight c7 that allows this weird bishop retreat. But if I go to knight f6, hitting the queen, it also is a double check. So he has to move his king because you're not allowed to do anything else. And he resigns. Okay, so just to show you from my perspective again, I like to do this to just show you how simple it is. Center. Development. Development. Free stuff. Center, but free stuff. Center. Center. Wait a second. They're saying you can do this, but... because you take with the queen and you get a second piece. Oh yeah. Takes. Yeah. This doesn't work in this particular case. Okay, because you get to take the second piece. So you already took the bishop, and then when he goes here, you're gonna take the knight. And when he takes your queen, you take his queen. He gets your bishop, but you took two pieces. So here it doesn't work. So you could go bishop g5 there. Okay. But I didn't do that. I did center. Risky move, but center. Development. Development and taking free stuff. Taking back my piece in center. Free stuff. Center. Queen e2, e5. Yeah, okay. So center. Very important move. Center. Best move. Center. Not a coincidence. Also preparing the extremely strong d4. But just to get to this position as black, as a 600 is absurd. So that was super fishy. He takes. I have to take my piece back in the center, I guess. Development. And then he resigns. So literally, like the past 3 videos and 4 games, every single move was center, development, king safety, or like, you know, a force thing, a recapture, or something like that, or free stuff. You can do it too. You can do it too. Alright, now this video is too long, so I'll see you guys in the next one. Good luck. Goodbye.